gotta get into that. I know y'all see the fit. The fit is clean. You know, I stay with the chains. Before we get into that though, we gotta get into this video. And this video is called "Black Men Don't Belong in Red Pill Spaces" by Antonio Talks. He's been on a roll lately, and so have I. So let's get into it.
In my videos, I always speak very positive of my black women. So with this being the case, I get comments all the time of people telling me I'm pandering to black women. What I've realized is that a lot of men online are red pilled. And with red pill and the ideology of it, it's very white supremacy based. And the thing about me is, bro, you can go online anywhere and just see so much negativity about black people, but black women in specific. And yes, don't get me wrong, black women have their problems such as every other group. I just tend to talk about the positive. You can go watch anybody else talk about the negative, all right? Back in the 60s, Malcolm X even said this: black women are the most least protected group in America. And that still applies 50, 60 years later, bro.
See, here's the thing. This is part of the reason why I never talk bad about the black community online. Even though I do criticize the raccoons of the community, that's different because they are actually not spiritually, psychologically, and emotionally black. Like, they still identify with white supremacy. Point being is that whenever you see people who criticize black people, especially like in these red pill spaces, they operate under the guise of like being critical, being rational, being real, and speaking truth to power, when really all they're doing is just expressing their racist viewpoints and perspectives. Because the red pill, and I said this in a previous video, the red pill space gives you an opportunity to affirm your stance by coalescing with like-minded people who will reinforce your beliefs, right? It's all about confirmation bias. That's the psychology, or part of the psychology of the red pill mindset. And so because of that, you're not really going to see much critical thinking. You're just going to see a bunch of hateful rhetoric. And the red pill stuff, you know, and I'll speak from personal experience, it is actually like, when you first get into it, like when it first started, like the first time I became like really aware of it was like 2019, 2020, right? There are some genuinely good things in there for like young male development, but that little bit that's helpful is always subverted by the overt racism and sexism. And it's like you'll have clips and moments where like these creators, the Myron Gaineses and Andrew Tates and people like that, will actually spit valuable financial advice, valuable life advice, valuable dating advice. And then they go on a tirade about how much they hate black people and women. And it's like, you could have just stuck with the self-improvement and self-development. You know, they start speaking on things that they have no knowledge of at all. And I knew this pipeline was going to happen. And it's funny because my mom warned me about this, like, even before I started, like back when I was like in like middle school, high school, right? And so I've always been cognizant of that. So I've seen a few of my friends fall into that trap. And some of them I had to like, you know, distance from, because I'm like, you're doing too much. Like, it gets to a point where it begins to like just borderline justify like abuse, and no, not borderline, it just does. It just justifies like abuse and narcissism. I'm not here for that. And also, got so much negative commentary and attention on black people that when someone speaks positively about black people without speaking on the negative, there's a knee-jerk reaction from both people within and without the community who criticize them. And it's like, can't have nothing without y'all haters, bro. That's the psychology of hate. Like, they're ubiquitous. They are everywhere, you know. You can't say anything positive without getting negative feedback. How that work? But actually, that makes sense. The law of polarity, you know.
And recently, I talked about black women in my Sexy Red video. And even though I was speaking in highly regards towards them and in positive aspects, I had so many comments of just people bashing black women. And I don't want to bring that type of energy here, okay? I just got to find a way of criticizing them without bringing in that negativity. Now, to get back on topic, today we're going to be talking about the red pill space. And specifically, if you're a young black man, these spaces are not for us. I don't know how many times I have to keep telling y'all that, but just look at all of the black people you know that are red pilled. And even just race aside, some of the biggest people in the red pill space, Myron Gaines, Andrew Tate, what do they have to show for their red pillness? They don't have a loving family, don't have a wife. What is this advice doing for y'all? It seems like it's just getting y'all money, but it's not reflecting into your real world.
The funny thing about Andrew Tate is that, like, there have been plenty of instances where like he went on Twitter bashing other races and trying to take the side of white people and white supremacy, only to be called an N-word and a monkey by his very fan base, you know, for being a black man. And Andrew Tate has this proclivity for like speaking on like as a on issues from like a biracial lens, where he'll say I am half black and half white, so I see both sides. It's like, no, you don't. Like you're either black or white. That's how the game is. That's how they've set it up. And he's a black man who identifies with white supremacy. He white passes a lot because his brother presents as white, but he's still a black person at the end of the day, and his fans, they know that, they see that, like it's pretty obvious, you know, especially when he let it slip that, or not let it slip, but when he let it be known that his dad is a black man, like that was when it was cooked for him after that. But his self-hatred is so strong that it defies rationale, and that's what these people are. That's who they are. The Candace Owenses, the Myra Gaines, this is who they are, you know, like there's no salvation for them in this life. That's what they choose to be.
Haynes is like a prime example. I think he got his first girlfriend at like 35, and then she ended up leaving him for a construction worker. So it's like, this shit is clearly they're grifting off a young man. But no more talking, man. Let's get into it.
You start out, you're just like, hey, we just want to be better with dating. We just want better social skills, right? And then before you know it, you're talking about like women are dogs and you need to train them. When I was 17, I fell down the red pill pipeline.
17.
And I managed to get myself out about 5 years later. The term red pill comes from the movie The Matrix. So it's basically saying that you have a truth or knowledge no one else seems to have. They would say that society is gynocentric, which means that society caters to women.
All right, that's bullshit. I mean, white women really don't have an input. Yes, they birthed the white men that run the world or the country, but it's very catered to men, especially white men.
Top 20.
I'm going to disagree with that. And I've talked at length about how white women are just as responsible for white supremacy as white men. The example that I always bring up is the slave trade, how 40% of slave owners were white women. That means almost half of them were women. White women often won in court battles against white men for ownership of slaves, right? So the justice system has been favoring women to whoop men's asses in like civil disputes for a very long time, right? But the reason why I say that is because some people are like, oh, well, you know, they were under the oppression of white men. No, they weren't. Like, they actually owned the slaves. But also, when they could have, if they actually truly felt that they were oppressed under white men, or with their 40% slave ownership, they could have abdicated their white identity and identified with the oppressed blacks in the country, the oppressed slaves, right? But what did they choose to do? They chose to continue the economic and racial system of slavery because it benefited them. They chose to identify with their whiteness over their gender. They chose to identify with their whiteness over being a supposedly marginalized and oppressed demographic, because they weren't. You see what I'm saying? So white women have always used the systems, the justice system primarily, to bolster white supremacy. Prime example, Emmett Till, right? What happened? A white woman cried wolf about a situation that never happened and what happened to him. And this happens a lot. This happens all the time. This happens modern day with false accusations, right? What happens to those men? You hear about college athletes, you know, oh, they were like at a party where a white girl got drunk, or they rejected a white girl, or they may have even done something sexual with a white girl, consensual. She's crying, saying it wasn't. Now you lose everything, right? White women have always had more power in society than any other race of men aside from maybe white men, because white women are far more manipulative and cunning than white men, than men in general. Women are more cunning than men, but white women, they take the cake. White women are like the Jews of just whiteness. You know what I mean? Like, you think that they're marginalized, you think that they're feeble and weak, and they actually have so much institutional, clandestine, sublime institutional power that many people overlook because they think that they're weak physically, that they can't inflict the same amount of damage that a white man can inflict. And because you're not looking at a white man, you're not socialized to see female violence or aggression the same way you see male violence or aggression, you think that women are just these helpless damsels in distress. Compound that with the umbrella and the protections of whiteness, which in a sense infantilizes white women and makes them seem like they're these beautiful angelic creatures who are always the victims, when more often than not they're the perpetrators. You know, you leave yourself open to being attacked and manipulated by them. So Just keep that in mind.
Top 20% of guys. This isn't true. I would say at
Not
17,
true at
I
all.
was socially awkward, very introverted. I felt I was ugly in high school. So I went on YouTube and looked up tips regarding dating and women. It eventually led me down this deep, dark hole. It was able to kind of take the weight of blame off of myself. Like, actually, women are the ones in control. You're actually the victim in this situation. It's a very appealing thing to be the victim. I didn't view it as like, I've got to put them down.
Ain't that something? Because they always say, "Oh, black people have a victim mentality," and the whole red pill identity is rooted around white men, having a victim mentality towards these little old women, who are apparently helpless and can't do anything, but also they control the entire like dating market.
Type of thing. Like, it was saying that, hey, we understand why you feel bad. If you just learn what we have to give you, you'll be the one winning.
Yeah, and this is how a lot of people are reeled in. I remember back in like 2022, I was around 21 years old, and I came across an Andrew Tate video, and what he was saying was resonate with me. It was like he was just talking about like keeping up with yourself and just trying to be a quote unquote real man. And then like as the days went on, I just kept seeing more and more of his content, and I was like, okay, it low key seems like he's anti-women or some shit. Like, I remember I posted a little TikTok video talking.
Nah, hold on, that's real shit. Cause like when I first heard about him, like I would just see like clips like on social media, like TikTok, IG, and shit, and I'd be like, oh, this dude's funny, right? Oh, this dude's actually spitting real shit. And I was like, people were saying, oh, he's a misogynist. I'm like, I didn't see it at first. Like I could see how people would think that, and I could see how that would lead to a pipeline, but it wasn't explicitly there. And there was a very, very strong wall of plausible deniability that he had. But the more following he got, the more power he got, the more influence he got. You started to see his true ideations come to fruition. And so my thing when I was like seeing that, I was hoping that he wasn't going to take that path, but I could see it happening, and I was just like, I don't know. Like at first, like okay, he makes some sexist, some funny jokes. It's like okay, like women say like they hate men all the time or unalive all men and stuff like that. But it was like his stuff was like mostly satirical. But it's like eventually, like when you joke about something for too long, it reveals your hidden feelings. It reveals those sort of, or maybe even to a degree, like unconscious feelings too. Maybe if you're not consciously hiding them, but they're just unconsciously there. It reveals those sentiments, and eventually it's like, okay, you're not joking anymore. Like you genuinely believe what you're saying. So like when they were like, oh, he's a threat to young men. At the time, I don't think that he was, but what he would later do, or the stuff that he would later say, the rhetoric that he would promote, and the impressionable young men that he influenced, yeah, for sure. Like that man is genuinely like a threat to like a civilized society.
About it, and when I did, it was a lot of males coming in though, like, no bro, you're a simp, he's speaking the truth. And I ended up deleting the video because I was like, damn, maybe I'm wrong. But just looking back, bro, I was right about this shit, bro. And if you feel something in your gut, don't let nobody change your opinion. And no one's going to think the same way as you. That's what I'm starting to realize now. Like, if everybody agrees with you, you fake, my nigga.
No, that's real, because like we only hear and read according to our level of consciousness, right? It's why one person can read something. I'm sorry, which is why two people can read the same thing and have totally different interpretations and pathways to understanding, or how they internalize that in their life, right? And so basically, whenever you know that you're speaking the truth, you have to just keep it up, regardless of the criticism that you're going to get. The only way to avoid criticism is to do nothing, be nothing, and say nothing. All right. So if you get criticism, that's because those people are out of alignment with you. The people who are in alignment with you, they will always be there. They will always resonate with what you are saying, right? So there's no reason to ever switch up the rhetoric or to try to change to appeal to larger bases when you know that what you're speaking is righteous or truthful.
You're commenting, you're reading more of it, but at the same time, you're distrustful of the women around you. You're distrustful of people around you.
And that's the thing. It's like, I don't understand how these red pill people can just talk so vile of women. Like, don't y'all have sisters that don't act the way that you're saying women act? Or don't y'all have mothers that don't act the way that women say they, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
they don't know what you...
I had friends back when I was like in middle school, and I remember just talking about like dating and stuff like that. This is before either like any of us were even dating, right? But they were talking bad about black women. I'm like, ain't your mama black? Black women this, black women that, yada yada yada. It's like, so you go to your oppressor? Oh, black women are this, that, and the third, so that's why I go for white. You go for the person who would have lynched you back in the day? You go for the people who are known for castrating you? Okay.
No, it just degrades your own mental health. You start, without even realizing it, isolating yourself. I actually felt really embarrassed if people caught me, which kind of is a telltale sign that's probably you shouldn't be watching it. I first started questioning my beliefs when I went through a breakup. Me and a friend of mine, we went to a cabin party. I started crying in front of one of the girls who I liked there. This girl responded rather with like shame and disgust that the red pill told me that they would react. She was actually like really kind about it, and that kind of made me think, what if I'm wrong?
Yes.
And then after
What this illustrates is that people just need to touch grass. You just have to go outside and get to know people. A lot of white people insulate, especially white men, insulate themselves into these echo chambers because they don't want to confront reality, because they don't have a culture that practices self-awareness and self-acknowledgement. They only want to reaffirm what they think they know. But if you actually touch the grass, if you actually went outside, right, you would see that black people and women are very different from your perceptions of them on the media, because the algorithm feeds you what you want to see. It is a large confirmation bias machine. This works for everybody. The algorithm will always feed you what you want to see, not what is actually truth. Is it true? Yes. But is it the truth? No. It is possible for two things to be true while neither one of them is the truth. That's the paradox. There are going to be horrible women out there. There are. But there's going to be horrible people in general, no matter where you go. But that doesn't mean you can make generalizations on all women because some bald dude said that women don't care about seeing a man cry and stuff like that. And there are societal generalizations, and there's some truth intertwined with them, of course, but you can't apply that to every single person and consider yourself a psychologically healthy individual. Like there's no way to do that. You have to just go outside. I remember this happened to me in college, right? It was like my freshman year, okay? I was in my room, right? Horny as a bitch, right? And I was about to, and then I stopped and I was like, wait a second. I'm on a college campus. There's a billion hoes everywhere I look. Why don't I just go talk to them? You know what I'm saying? It's just like little stuff like that. I was like, why don't I just go talk to them? I don't have to do that. Little stuff like that. Just going outside, and not everything has to lead to like an encounter. Just get to know people, vibe with people. The other thing is like it makes you see like women as just objects of like sexual desire and not human beings to experience and understand and cultivate a sound and maybe even platonic relationship with, Women aren't our tool, our sex tools. And women who fall into the female red pill spaces, the femcel stuff, you gotta understand that men are not just financial assets. We're human beings. We come from one another. We are the product of the unity of male and female. We shouldn't look down on each other or try to manipulate or dominate or get the best over the other. We need that spiritual unity, the correlation and the coalescing of the masculine and feminine energies if you're into the spiritual community. Stuff like that. You know what I mean? Anyway.
afterwards, I was bar hopping with a group of guys, and a few of them were red pilled. It was the first time actually meeting other red pill guys, and I could just kind of see how bitter and angry they were. There was this one guy, and he was trying to do pickup techniques. It was obvious that the girls weren't liking it at all, but he kept getting more and more aggressive. I'm like, is this how I see the world? And it kind of disgusted me. I say it's compared to a cult. They don't like outsiders. They don't like outside thought. A lot of the comments started also sounding the same too. There was no original thought. There's a lot of, you guys make me feel like I'm at home, complaining about women, reappeal the 19.
I mean, no disrespect when I say this, but these red pill niggas gay. That's all I could think of. They hate women so much. They don't like them to talk, don't like them to speak. They don't want to be around them. Are y'all gay? And there's nothing wrong with that, but just live your truth. Stop trying to put on this macho man, I'm hard aspect when you don't like women. You gay as hell. Like, who talk like this? Like, what the? I don't know about you, bro, but I would rather be around women than men all day. They need to.
No. No facts. Like, I've gotten flack for that because most of my friends are females, and people are like, "Oh, why are you always hanging around women? Why are you always hanging around women?" Blah blah blah. It's like, women to me are just better company. This ain't got nothing to do with like sex or nothing like that. Women to me are just always like in mass are just better company. Like, I'd rather be 3 dudes, 6 girls than the inverse. I've seen like some of the red pill dudes, like even like low key, what's his name, David Goggins, and he talks about like uh he was like there was like this one clip. He was like, I want to get a room full of men, strong men, hard men, and do this and that. I'm like, that's the gay word, bro. Like, these red pill boot camps, it's just like the Romans when like they because the Roman men were so homosexual. Like, they didn't even allow women to do plays, so they dressed up like women and they were basically cross-dressing. And then later on they would like go and do it with each other. It's the same thing. This is their legacy. This is the legacy of the West, the legacy of whiteness. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter whether it's Rome 2,000 years ago or America in 2025, 2020, whatever, right? This is what they do. And that red pill, like that disdain for like feminine energy, for femininity, for women, for female energy, whatever you want to extrapolate it to, has always been a hallmark of their society. It truly has. And that's why it always causes like sexual deviance and externalized violence and things like that. Like, they genuinely do not like femininity. They do not like women. Their entire worldview and the world they have constructed tangibly is a product of the imbalance of the masculine and the feminine, of the masculine over the feminine. That's the truth of it. And they're like, oh, whenever you hear them like describe like their ideal woman or what they want in a woman, they're describing a man. You're describing a man, and it's like, it's one thing like you're shorty, short women, like they talk and it's like, you're just like, shut the fuck up, like, you just don't want to hear her talk. That's cool, you know what I'm saying? But when you're like, oh, I want a woman who is like stoic in this, or a woman who isn't emotionally reactive. Every single woman is emotionally reactive. Every human is emotionally reactive, right? Because that's an inherently emotional sense, because you're not thinking logically about how all humans are emotional creatures first and foremost. But women are more socialized and conditioned to externalize their emotions without any sort of social sanctions or taboo. So they're going to have that agency, so they're going to express it, of course. And you just got to deal with it. I'm not saying that you have to be with a crybaby ass. I'm not saying that. But women are going to have their moments. Like, that's just who they are. There's nothing wrong with that. You got to know how to handle that. But like, men, we have our moments too, and women have to know how to handle that. There are things that come with being with the opposite sex partner that you have to understand. You have to understand the differences. That doesn't mean that they're bad. Not at all. Those differences are what make us special. They're what make us unique. They're what make us who we are. They're what make us male and female, and then the individual within that.
Go to jail or something. They would love jail. Hell yeah.
It's the amendment that allows women to vote. There was a lot of rage. I have a mom. I have women friends. So it would be kind of like, I don't want to take away their rights. And then over time, they got really disgusting. I don't feel comfortable saying some of the other stuff I saw. Just vile, misogynistic comments. That was another thing that helped me realize my beliefs in the red pill were wrong. When I first started to decide to actively stop watching red pill content, it was like flooding my feed. I would just click not interested, not interested. But regardless, they just kept appearing over and over. So yeah, it took me roughly about a year. I'm on ex-red pill forums to help other people out like I would have helped me out. Helping others too is kind of maybe a way of like rectifying it. So
a lot of these dudes like who get out of the pipeline are actually like low-key survivors. You had to see them as that, because they go through a lot. They go through a lot, and the pipeline, it actually just makes it worse. So they've been through the tribulations. So I commend those who made it out and are trying to find peace.
Thing I wish that someone would told me when I was in the red pill. Not everyone who tells you that you're right is your friend. I feel like content creators in the red pill, they don't believe sincerely what
They
they say,
don't.
and they're only saying it to get
Obviously, it's a
money and
grift.
time out of you. Feminism is not bad. It's required in today's society. Also, men and women have different preferences, and sometimes you won't meet them. That's nothing personal. I think community is the solution for this. The isolation and self-involved nature of these is what's leading people down these rabbit holes. There are still lots of men, especially young men, who are being introduced to these philosophies.
There's a large contingent of young men who don't have community, especially in the COVID and post-COVID era. Um, but when you compile that with the fact that women tend to do better in education and in higher education, particularly, that the education system is not really tailored to fit the needs of young males. And then you start to see like the reduction of men in academic settings, the reduction of men just participating in society and the workforce and things like that. These things create the conditions or play a role in the creation of the conditions for the red pill philosophy. And I say this not to justify, but because we need to understand its genesis, okay? In order to prevent it from happening again. Because just telling men or young boys like red pill stuff is bad, it doesn't resonate with a lot of them because one, there's a general like lack of empathy within society that just trying to communicate with people on a humanistic level doesn't move them. But two, if you never address the causes, then you can't necessarily blame the effects. Now, I'm not justifying like misogyny, right? But you have to acknowledge the societal elements that allow this identity to spur about, right? You have to identify like the failings that the school system, that the education system foster here, all these institutions have towards young men. You have to acknowledge that, right? Like, or have contributed towards young men. And I recognize like the white supremacist element to that because a lot of these young men are entitled white boys who have never really been challenged in the last 400 years, right? Like their station in society. So they don't handle it well once you start to see these reforms with things like civil rights, DEI, etc., where you're now putting people on a more equitable playing field. I'm not going to negate that, and that's definitely a factor. And I think it's possible for two things to be true without them contradicting one another. It's possible for you to acknowledge that men across the board are not doing well, or that the women tend to be doing better in society, while also acknowledging that the ideations behind that are inherently rooted in white supremacy. Yeah, but my point is that like when you see that like there are people, young men who have like genuine concerns, genuine anxieties, fears about their place in society, fears about how women treat them, how women speak about them and things like that. You know, like the 2010s really had like this movement where it was like really liberating to women, and I have nothing against female liberation at all, but it was like really sexually liberating. Women were just kind of like saying a whole bunch of heinous shit about men, you know, and it's like I understand that women have those sentiments. I get it. But one, the misogyny is a product of white supremacy, right? So we need to acknowledge that and stop trying to veil it, make it sound like it's just all men. Because even a lot, and I'm not saying that black men and other communities don't have misogyny and female hatred, because they do. But as it is understood in this context, it is a product of white supremacy, and they are tethered together. They are tethered together. You cannot divorce the two. But also, like, you can't be like, why do men feel this way? And then promote like rhetoric that is saying stuff like all men should like die and stuff like that, and expect young men to not feel some type of way about it. And I don't want to shift accountability either, because I think that at the end of the day, a lot of the men who fall into these red pill spaces do it consciously because they are actually just evil and horrible people. That's also true. Like I know a few people who, uh, mind you, at their big age, know better. Like they know they're not impressionable 14-year-old boys on Reddit. Like these are grown adults with lives, right? Who intentionally go down the red pill pipeline because they want to do it. Because they want to affirm their stance. They want to find commonality amongst people who view women with disdain, amongst people who view black people with disdain, even though they themselves are black. That is a large contingent of the population of the red pill community as well. You know, so I think you have to look at it case by case. For the adults, when you are 20 plus, 21, 22 plus years old, I'll even say if you're in, I'll even give you to your mid 20s. You can be safe if you're like 25 or younger. Even though for me personally, I think that my threshold is like 21 and younger. But when you're a grown ass adult, 25 plus, 30, 40, 50, I'm serious. There are 50-year-olds who fall into this shit. You have no excuse. You're just a dumbass. This is the philosophy that you want to follow out of all of the philosophies on earth that could benefit your life, benefit your family, benefit society. This is what you adhere to.
And if I can avoid anyone from feeling the loneliness and rage and isolation I felt when I was that young, that's a win.
Big shout out to this dude right here for being able to come online and explain his truth. He found out he was wrong. And at the age of 17, bro, you're very susceptible to these type of tactics that these red pill influencers throw at you. You may feel ugly, you may feel like women reject you at higher rates, and instead of actually doing the internal work, it's easier to just put the blame on women. It's their problem. Like I just keep stating, bro, most of these red pill influencers, for one, if they are married, they don't do any of the advice that they're taking. For two, they not married. They don't have a loving family. They don't have kids. They don't have a wife. So it's like, why are you even listening to their strategies? You want to be lonely and old when you know what I'm saying? But hey,
more and more women are reporting that as their partners watch more red pill content, they start reporting the changes that the men in their relationship are going through. One woman broke up with her man the minute he started watching Fresh and Fit. One of the women in this article says that her boyfriend fell deep into the red pill stuff, watching Fresh and Fit, Andrew Tate, MGTOW content. And eventually he ghosted her, and she wondered what the hell's going on. And he said he was using something called dread game, just something in red pill spaces, which means you want to make the woman chase you. And it's more emotional manipulation than it is anything else. It's not.
Why are you trying to get shorty who you are in a relationship with to chase you? But women do the same thing because they be like, "Oh, my man gotta be obsessed with me." I put these women in those types of women in the same category as these types of men. The red pill in general is just a cancer. But it's like you're trying to play the same games as the shorties, and it's like if you feel like you have to play games to be in a relationship with someone, you probably shouldn't be in that relationship with that person, and you probably should work on building a better, healthier relationship with yourself before you seek out a partner, because you don't know how to seek out partners. And I said this before, your relationship, who you date, is a reflection of who you are. And so if you're dating horrible women, it's because there's some sort of weakness or lapse or a moral decadence within you that you haven't sorted out yet, or that you don't care to sort out. And that you make it a problem for everybody else,
attractive. If anything, it's the reason he doesn't have a relationship anymore. These women are saying things like, I don't recognize the man anymore after he started watching this stuff. There are countless stories of this. I have posted about it before, but what's unfortunate about red pill manosphere content is it's no longer just for the youth. It's no longer just for kids who were locked down in COVID and were just watching YouTube. There are married men who are falling for this. It's insane to me that you would throw your own relationship away because you're following the words of a man who probably isn't in a relationship.
Random man.
That's gay. Like, I'm telling y'all, that's gay as shit, bro. That is the same thing as like women who can't get a man to save their lives, and they want to keep their other friends single. It's like they can't get a man, and then they find out like shorty's in a happy, healthy relationship or marriage, and they do everything to sabotage. It's the same. The mentalities are different. The approach is different, but the mentalities are the same. Why would you leave your girl to follow the words of men who don't have women, of men who don't love themselves? And it was something, I think it's like a study that was related to the fact that a lot of men covet the validation of other men more than they do their relationship with women within these spaces, because they've been socialized to see male approval as like the highest honor, a bunch of men agree with what you're doing, who you're dating, how you conduct yourself, great. And I look at it like most of those men are going to be losers anyway. Most people in general, I think, I don't want to say are losers, but I just don't really like fuck with. So I'm not really caring about what they're saying. This is irrespective of race and gender. You know, you got to form an identity outside of the external. You have to form an identity outside of like a racial identity or a sexual or gendered identity or even like a group identity. You have to have a solid foundation within before anything without. Don't look at, subcultures for identity. Don't look to religion for identity. Look within for that identity. What do you like? What is your passion? What do you love? What resonates and aligns with you? That's what you gotta look like. That's what you gotta look for. Instead of looking at these communities and all that nonsense.
Gaines, Andrew Tate, they are not in relationships. They don't know how to keep women happy. Thus, they try to make other men unhappy with them. And I've also posted in the past that Canadian lawyers are also seeing a wave of divorces, claiming that the men that they were with started watching red pill content and the relationship went to hell. So look out for the signs that your man is falling for this. Probably a telltale sign that the relationship is going to end unless you can snap them out of it. There are women in my comments who have said that their partner started watching it after the woman realized this. She had a talk with them and they ended up being able to pull it out. But it becomes something where you almost have to deprogram these men once they start going down this path. There are articles.
The red pill shit is literally like what the Darkside was to Anakin. That's what it is to incels or to men. You got to catch that before they go all the way down that path. But the thing about like Anakin is that he already had like Darth Vader and Anakin are literally the same person. There's like this idea that Darth Vader is like a split personality. The preconditions to create Vader were always there, and that's how it is within the red pill men. They always had those ideations or those proclivities somewhere within, consciously or unconsciously. So it's not like, oh, they were being turned or they were being manipulated or they were being influenced. No, this is a conscious, more often than not, like it's a conscious choice. Like they choose to subvert better judgment and common sense for these narratives.
After article of women who are finding that red pill is ruining their relationship, and this is just another example of it.
So my thing is, bro, a lot of these red pill guys feel like they have woken up. They taking the red pill. They can see things for what they are. You're still having that sheep mentality. You're still following someone. This isn't like a thought that they just consciously gain like out of nowhere. No, this is something that they're seeing on the screen and following. So it's like
it's sort of like the same thing as like spiritual people who are like, I don't follow Christianity. I don't follow any religion. I'm spiritual. Yet they adhere to like these same sort of moral dichotomous principles that you would find in organized religion, and these same sort of extremism and cult-like mentalities. So like, I'm free, and it's like you just traded one cage for another. You traded one master for another. The thing about like religion and like this analogy is like, at least with religion, like there's like 2,000 years or 3,000, 4,000 years of like context to build off of or to follow. Whereas like with new age spirituality, a lot of it is like a perversion of just like hermeticism. And it's like, you don't even understand the principles of what it is that you're purporting to practice. And you're just out there like hugging trees. Like those and like they have like all the jewelry and the rings on and all that. That's me. I don't fall into that category though. But it's like they always look at the aesthetics but never the substance. It's the same thing with religion. So it's like that's all they do. That's what these people do. This is who these people are at the end of the day.
You're not so special. You're still a sheep. You know what I'm saying? Just following a different path. And just the fact that it's married men watching this content. Clearly y'all not happy. Or maybe y'all need hobbies. I don't know. Just leave. Like, I don't know.
The so-called red pill movement was originally about waking up from societal illusions, waking up from the matrix. Yeah. But somehow it got hijacked into a hyper-masculine, misogynistic ideology. And unfortunately for many black men, it became a very real reaction to a very real pain. The pain of fatherlessness, the pain of betrayal, the pain of systemic emasculation, social invisibility, and economic struggle. See, but the thing is, instead of healing that pain, the Red Pill movement weaponized it. It took vulnerability and turned it into venom, especially towards black women. See, the thing is, the Red Pill movement tells black men, don't be a simp. High-value men don't chase women. Women are hypergamous and can't be trusted. Never prioritize a woman. Get money, grind, and stay cold.
Bro, it just creates division within the black community. Like, that's why I say Red Pill is anti-black, because the whole loud, angry trope is particularly towards black women. And the reason that black women are like that, like I say all the time, stems back to slavery. Black women have always had to be strong. You get what I'm saying? Let me just give you an analogy. I explain this all the time, but it was something called book breaking. And what they used to do, or that's one example, but this is just one way that the slave masters used to demasculate the man in front of everybody. So he used to take a man in front of his family, his wife, kids, and, you know what I'm saying, break him. Pause, by the way. He used to goddamn, do what he do, grape him, okay? And this completely demasculates the man. Like, just imagine someone taking away that vulnerability in front of everyone to see. The woman just inherently is going to feel like you can't protect her, because if he steps out of line, he's going to do that again. Now, this is another way that they did it. Let's take black men that were black slaves in general that were very rebellious. They used to really want to set an example. This is just one barbaric torture they used to do. They used to do many crazy things as well. But they used to say you're very problematic, and they want to set an example so other slaves stop doing this. They take a very problematic slave, get everyone, all the slaves, the mother, the wife, all the kids. If you had kids, take everyone and sit them right here. They get the slave. First off, what they do is they strip him naked. Okay. Secondly, they tar and feather him. Yeah. They then set him on fire. Then they set him up in the tree. They attach 2 horses, one to the left leg, one to the right leg, whip the horse. Boom. Imagine a mother sees that.
And the fact that, that black people still date white people when this is what they did to us is ridiculous. The fact that you would go into these incel and femcel spaces and talk bad about black women, talk bad about black men, when these people have committed these just disgusting atrocities against us, yet you villainize and demonize your own people. It's a really psychotic society that we are living in. And I understand, the moving on from the past. So that was the past, right? But the past still affects us, right? You need to kind of harbor this to truly move on from the past. To evolve, you have to harbor this double consciousness where you acknowledge the context of the past in regards to how we are today, but also recognizing that is the past and that we have the ability, the agency to forge our own destiny from the ashes of our previous failures and humiliation. This is why so many black Republicans, black millionaires and billionaires, and even the black liberals are sort of part of the system. They identify with the system because the prospect of death and how gruesome it was, it still resonates with us because we see that happening today. It may not be as overt, but we still are living under this collective cloud or understanding that if you breach the societal standards and expectations for how you should be, then you are going to be punished. Now, this applies to everybody, but especially to black people. You defy the white person, you defy white people, that's what happens to you. And I think that this has been embedded in us on an epigenetic level to the point where there's now an instinctual an adherence to white authority that's been so embedded in black people. And this is why principles in Christianity often don't matter, or the principles of Christianity often don't matter to black people at all. And why their perception of God is one of wrath and envy, because that's how white people are. Black people see God the same way they see white people. Better not step out of line or else. You worship the person who gives you scraps, the God that's stingy with their blessings. Just as white people are. White people will only give you the scraps. They'll give you the bare minimum. They give you what you need to either keep you in line or make you feel like you're part of the system, make you feel like you're being blessed, all the while atrocities are happening to your people all over the world. It's the same thing. Same thing was happening during slavery. The same thing that's happening right now. It's the same mentality, right? Same process, the same neural pathways. And this is why I've said that you cannot divorce white supremacy from Christianity. They're one and the same, because Christianity was that arm, that tool, that sword of white supremacy, you know? It was the weapon that kept us in line. And that's why this is why people are so willing to advocate morality and principles for money or status, because that's infinitely better than, in their opinion, than what would happen to them if they got out of line. I choose death over enslavement 10 times out of 10, because that's just the type of person I am. That's how I've been raised. That's how I've been conditioned. That's also just like my natural inclination, neurodivergent, strong sense of justice. If it doesn't make sense to me, I'm not going to do it. I've always been that type of person. So, and I've stood on this before. Like, I've had moments in my life where, like, I was at risk for losing everything, and I still stood on what I wanted to, what I believed. And even if I lost, like, okay, I didn't lose myself, and that was really all that mattered. I didn't lose my dignity, and that's all that mattered to me. But
it's like, this is where that disconnect comes in. So this red pill thing, it's like, instead of going under that armor and seeing why the women are the way they are, it's just, nah, black women loud and angry. Let's go to white women.
That narrative is bullshit. And that framing is not only toxic, it's historically inverted. Because before the programming of white supremacy and gender wars, black love was sacred. Black men protected black women, not out of submission, but out of duty. Black women stood beside black men during every form of oppression, from slavery to Jim Crow to mass incarceration and beyond. So when you realize that and you recognize that, you will quickly realize that this idea of loving a black woman being a weakness is a lie. That lie was planted to divide the pillars of the black family. There's a saying, if you can convince a man that love is weakness, you can make him into a weapon instead of a healer.
Big shout out to everybody in this video, man. I'm gonna have all of the.
No, I wanna end off on this. It's like, when people say, "Oh, black men don't protect black women. Black men need to protect women. Black women, blah blah blah." I think that you should 100% protect the women in your life. Don't go out there like risking your life trying to protect people. Man, let me not even say that, because that's just gonna be spreading negativity. Just be transparent. And here, listen to my words very carefully. Don't go out of your way and risk your life trying to protect people that you don't know. That's just not smart, you know, especially if you don't have the faculties to do that. It's commendable on principle, it really is, but it may not be wise. But I'm not going to criticize anyone who wants to do that. More power to you if you do. But I don't think you should feel pressured or obligated to do so. As a black man, the women in your life, do everything in your power, especially if they love you, they look out for you. Do everything in your power to protect them. Everything. But to the women, you have to give the black man something to protect. Okay? The black man has to want to protect, and the woman has to have something to protect. This isn't about like motherhood or pregnancy or anything like that. It's about substance of character. If you don't give someone something to protect, there is going to be no incentive to protect it. And then for the black man, you have to understand the value of what it is that you are supposed to be protecting. You have to get out of the Eurocentric programming. You have to get out of the red pill shit. You have to think critically. You have to try to find unity and amongst your people, but first unity within yourself. If you can reconcile the dissonance within, if you can reconcile the decadence, if you can reconcile the anger and the strife that you feel within, and find some sort of peace or alignment with yourself, you will align yourself with women who are in alignment with you. Cherish and protect those women as much as you can. And the women who are in alignment with you are automatically going to be worth cherishing, hence why they are in alignment with you. That's the calculus right there. Work on the internal, everything in the external has no choice but to follow. Every frequency has to compound into a reality. That is how you fix the problem. I'm not going to be like, we need to assign blame and be like, well, women should stop doing this and men should stop doing that. No. Look within. Look at what you should start doing first. It goes back to like the JFK quote, but just in a different form. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Ask not what black women can do for you. Ask what you can do for black women. And for black women, ask not what black men can do for you, ask what you can do for black men. And you will find those like-minded individuals. A lot of people are going to get cut out of that, and that is okay. Everything is not for everybody. You are not for everybody. If you truly believe in making a better future for us, for the community, and for yourself, you're going to have to make a sacrifice. This is often talked about in spirituality. There has to be a sacrifice. It's not about like, oh, giving up your baby to the sky gods. It's about giving up your old life, your old mentality for the new one. Giving up the old world for the one that is in alignment with you. Once you have that, man, as a black man, you won't have any questions about whether or not you should protect anybody.